Mommy made me mash my M&M. Dum, dum.
All right. That's enough of that. Kent, thank you so much for flying out to be on the podcast.
Yeah, of course. I legit thought about flying out for the podcast.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Did you look at plane tickets?
No, I wasn't that serious because I knew how much they were because my dad was just out here. But, all of my investments were tied up non-liquid right now. So
Yeah.
it just was complicated.
Dude,
that's
anytime you want to make it out to Alpharetta, dude, there are plenty of good hotels to stay at. So,
yeah, you got a place to stay here in Alpharetta at a hotel. Okay, but I'm going to use that all the time. Like all of my investments were tied up non-liquid at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think Delta's accepting. What kind of crypto are you in these days?
Most of them.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah.
Well, like the ETFs are, you got to hold diamond hands, so
Yeah,
you can't just trade on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, buy low, sell high.
It's a good excuse though, right? I mean, you're not saying you can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Non-liquid, like the, whatever, the groceries I bought.
Yeah.
Like tied up non-liquid.
Yeah, my money is tied up in like this microphone right here.
Yeah, that's true.
mine's supposed to say like cereal and almond milk. Well, that's just liquid.
Yeah, that is true.
I legit had an investor tell me that one time though. He was like, man, I would love to. It's just, I don't have that liquid right now. And I was like, that's the first time I'd ever heard that. And I was like, that's such a baller way to say no.
Yeah. It just means like I don't have money. Welcome, right. Kent Sheridan, to the program.
Welcome.
The Valor Coffee Sometimes podcast. Thank you all the way from Bend, Oregon. Snowy Bend, Oregon. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. It's coming down wet this morning.
Yeah, at the top of November. Mm-hmm. I mean, how much snow are you getting over there?
On Bachelor, on our mountain, I have no idea because I haven't skied in like 5 years. So, I'm not the guy. There's a lot of people in town that just talk about that all the time. Hey, real quick, Riley's battery is exhausted.
Yeah.
I think you guys.
He's exited the building. I think he's just going to get in his car and
head out. No, I think he's solving the issue. He's solving the issue.
Okay. It's kind of a funny thing to display, though, your battery. It's just exhausted.
I mean, it could work. It's just tuckered out right now.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Kent, your office, I know we said it before the program, but it looks amazing. I'm particularly noticing the cool cigarette display with Voila on it. Very clever. I know you're a big cigarette advocate, and that's kind of why you started Voila, to give back.
Yeah.
But it looks cool. It looks really cool.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I got that stand at like this little boutique store for like $20 a long time ago. And I was like, it's perfect. It needs you can put stuff in, slide in little like prices and whatnot. But it's been a good way to display like all the different boxes we did over the years and like the progression. So, it's just a piece of junk that I hold on to now and won't ever throw away.
Amen.
It's lovely.
Amen. I really like your guys' backdrop too. I mean, Shacky boy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's a friend of the program.
Man. He's always with us, watching over us.
In spirit and in truth.
I don't know if you probably can't see it on my side. I have Adam Sandler just to my right. He's in a Superman shirt. Oh, we're talking about him. We've never talked about him.
I know.
I noticed that.
It's okay. It's okay.
Has he made an appearance on the pod?
Just in this photo.
Oh, really? Okay, because I can't see it at all. So
oh, yeah.
I actually don't.
In the full video podcast, we cut back and forth of angles between like just Ross and Ethan and just me. But for you just have a slice of Riley.
Does Ethan usually start the pod with a big yawn?
Yeah, just to show everybody that he's glad he's here.
And he asks if we can wrap it at least 10 times throughout the podcast.
Yes.
He's already said it once today.
Yeah, he actually has.
You give the like any second of dead air, you just go, well, one of those. Like, Ethan, we haven't even gotten to the topics yet. Chill out.
Let's cut it. Cut and run. We'll probably cut this one into a few episodes already. I mean, we have so much content to work with.
Right, yeah.
Slice and dice, distribute the content out. I want to say to you guys, like, for real, you guys are the best. You guys do awesome stuff. And I've been listening to the pod, gearing up. So it's pretty good, actually. It's pretty entertaining. So thank you. And I like hearing Ross say program a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sports content I'm not like so fond of, other than, it feels I usually like put it on in my truck and I'm just like, I feel like I'm one of the boys. I'm just like there with you guys. And then you guys call me and I'm like, should I say I was just like listening to you at the same time?
It's okay. We get that all the time. Yeah.
It has happened.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth on the sports stuff, like with whether we should, should we really zero in and make these 25-minute coffee podcasts, or should we be ourselves and talk a little bit? Because usually Tuesdays are our first contact with each other in the week, like in a room together, because like we're just in different places on Monday. And we have some people who are like, yeah, I just skip over it. And then some people are like, I don't even like sports. And that's the only part I like to listen to. I don't even listen to the coffee part. So it's an interesting dynamic.
Now you guys are like really sports themed though, like as Valor. So it's like part of the brand, right?
Yeah.
Well,
So, I mean, just like dig in. At what level would you say your like sports proficiency is and like keeping up to date? Like, is this a reliable source of all things sports media?
Football, I would say so. We usually all come in here knowing what went on over the past. It's kind of perfect. It's after Monday, so we got the Monday night under our belt. Yeah. We all know what happened in college. I usually me and Ethan know what happened in college. Ross knows what happened, and then we kind of like all know what happened in NFL. But other sports, I don't know what happened in basketball this past weekend. No clue.
Yeah. So definitely not like sports, but more so football.
Yeah.
And ultimate frisbee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Do people ever come on and like mess up your guys' names, like mix you guys up? Because now there's two guys with like buzzed hair on here, and I mean, I know your guys' names, but like, I'm nervous just being on here. Like, okay, what? I mean,
know.
There's no name at there's Riley. It says Riley on my video, but
we're kind of all Riley in a way.
People definitely mess our names up. Mostly Ethan and I. They mess our names up in real life, but not on the program.
okay,
Yeah.
well that's good. Maybe hopefully it won't be a first.
Yeah.
Because we're all best friends, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And man, let's wrap there.
We're gonna wrap you, get you out of here. Kind of
Dude,
just replace you weekly with Kent.
Ouch.
Honestly, that's a fair choice.
Do people? How many people would you say consider you guys their best friends in real life?
Oof.
Wow.
Like, I mean, especially compared to how many best friends you guys have. Like, that ratio is huge.
When
right?
you say best friend, do you mean like your best as in truly best? Like there's one person, or is it like one of my best friends kind of thing?
like top tier, top 5.
Okay.
Top 5.
I mean, I'm thinking like that ratio's got to be insane. I mean, if you guys really think about it, like how many people are like, yeah, Ross, Ethan, Riley, like they're my best friends.
Dude, why do you think that people think we're?
I don't know about that.
Are you saying because of this podcast, people like people? I think,
No, I'm saying I'm saying without a shadow of a doubt, like there are so many people who think you guys are their best friends.
Wow.
I would not think that true of myself. I would say that there are 3 people who consider me one of their 5 closest friends, and it would be you two. Sorry to put that in your mouth.
That's accurate.
And my wife. That would be it.
I was like, who's the third?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would think
No.
you guys, and then maybe like 2 or 3 other people tops.
I don't want to disclose my friend circles.
It's kind of a place of hurt for me and Ross. Whenever you talk about all your
Yeah, anytime
friends.
I talk about my other friends, Ross and Riley get real chippy. And I'm already on thin ice with this podcast, so I might just want to wrap here.
Dang, dude.
What I'm saying though is like you guys have like each other as your best friends, and there are like hundreds, if not thousands, of other people who think you guys are their best friends.
All right, Kent.
What
We
the
get
hell?
it.
at least thousands.
Really proud of.
Well, I guess do you consider us your best friends?
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great, because right back
I mean,
at you.
that's why like anytime you guys call, I'm already listening to the pod. I'm already like talking to you guys. I'm on the culture couch with you. You just don't know it.
You're sitting
in
in
the
We
between.
know it. We can feel it.
Nothing stands
Okay, good.
between us.
Well, Kent, we haven't even introduced you or said who or what you are, really.
Why?
And why you are.
Yeah.
So why don't you give our listeners and viewers,
Our best friends.
our best friends, a
Yes.
picture of who is Kent?
Well, I'm a very coffee curious person. Across a lot of different things and industries and yeah, I don't know. So people would know me from Voila. That was a company I started and founded, and we made instant coffee. And that's pretty much it. That's the only reason anybody would know me from your podcast. I also am an Alpharetta born and raised native.
Oh yeah.
I'm a peach.
Were you a
And-
Raider? You go to Alpharetta High?
I'm a Raider.
Come on. I see you, boss.
Or the Alpharetta Marching Raider Band.
Oh yes.
What'd you play?
You know, I played 4th bass drum
Nice.
There you go.
freshman year, and then I had like knee surgery, so I had to go in the pit, and I was like, this is stupid. So then I quit the pit, but I was in there. Yeah, I'm a Raider. But you guys aren't. No. We didn't know each other in high school, which is like a really weird thing, right? Like we all actually know each other post
Right.
Alpharetta move away from me.
Yeah, it is weird. Meant to be.
We didn't know this until fairly recently that there's another coffee guy from Alpharetta out there.
Really?
One of the founders of Little Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Wait, for real?
Yeah, for sure.
It might have been
I
Roswell.
love Little Wolf.
Yeah, it might have been Roswell, but did he move there? I can't quite remember the exact story. Maybe moved to Florida a little bit, older teens or
Melissa, comment below. We
Yeah.
need your help.
something.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's Melissa?
No, it's Melissa's partner, whose
Okay.
name is... Right. Yeah.
I don't know his name.
Yes.
Chris.
It's Chris.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
it's Chris.
Chris.
It is,
Okay.
for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
it was Chris.
Little Wolf is just so good. I listened to that pod too, or at least like a good portion of it. Yeah, Little Wolf is so good.
So good.
That's
Agreed.
really cool.
Yeah, so maybe we can all get together and have like a little,
Best friend
North
party.
Fulton
Reunion.
party.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that'd be really sick. Yeah, so the reason we actually like all got connected, I think, from my perspective, is I was listening to the Cat and Cloud podcast, as I'm sure a lot of like early people got on board with you guys through that podcast, and you guys were you interviewed, right, on Cat and Cloud?
Yeah, by
Yep.
Alex, their wholesale dude.
Yeah. That was super cool. So you guys were from Alpharetta, or were in Alpharetta, not from Alpharetta, but like nearby in Alpharetta, doing the cart, this coffee cart.
Yep.
You had just done a Kickstarter, and you were all like, what, 22 or 23 at the time, and all married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, same. Me too. No, because from Alpharetta, right? I came out here. My first business was a coffee cart. My first business in coffee, or first venture in coffee ever, was a coffee cart. And then I was trying to build a better version of coffee carts after that when I came up with the idea for Voila. And then, I got married really young as well. And I was like, oh, these are my best friends. I gotta find them.
They're your people.
And so I think I DM'd you guys on Instagram and had a really fully awkward conversation with Riley. Like, no, you need to understand, like, we have all these things in common and we should be friends.
We need to go back and find that
You're
message.
like, all right, we can be friends.
And Riley was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, yeah, maybe I'll talk to the guys about that.
Yeah. And,
I have to get their permission.
Riley was like, Ross is the wholesale guy, so talk to him.
Did you send your mom in to the cart? I feel like
Yeah.
remember
I
that.
sent my mom in like pretty quickly after that. That was good. She told me she was in like last week as well.
was.
She pops in.
I was there. Funny enough.
She was like, that really nice boy was there. I was like, that was Ethan.
Wow.
Definitely Ethan.
Nice boy.
You're like Ross
Yeah.
or Ethan? I can't remember.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap.
Yeah. So I definitely remember that conversation as well. And, regardless of how I played it off, I was really excited about it because you were like, I have this company. It's grown. I've experienced this, and this. And I was like, I don't really have anyone in my life that will relate to me in that way right now. And so it was nice of you to reach out.
At what point?
Yeah,
At what
yeah.
stage of Voila were you at that point? Do you remember?
So I had just moved into like our larger commercial space, which was the space that we had for the next like 4 years or so. And so we were really taking on like a big risk at that point, rent and but we were starting to get our name out there. Like we were thinking about, a packaging redesign, all of that. So is that a really kind of like big point, probably a year past launch, like our public launch. So yeah, I was also happy to connect with you guys as well. Like, just to hear other people around, the same age demographic as myself at that time, just really having some, I want to say countercultural, but like some different viewpoints in coffee and just like speaking into the existing coffee narrative in a fresh and exciting way. I was like, yes, this is what it's all about. Like, even though it's very different from what I was focused on, I was like, this is what needs to be happening in coffee. So yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the first time meeting?
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. I think I remember it was definitely pop-up days. We were back there in the corner, and I think that you came in, and I don't think I'd ever seen your face anywhere. And
Right.
you were like, "Hey guys, I'm Kent," and we were like, "Kent," and then it was great. And one of my bigger regrets in life is that I didn't go to dinner with you guys on that first time.
We went to Holmes.
Yeah.
I still think about that dinner. That was like
us
the
and
best.
Brooke and Kent?
Yeah.
Dude, you
Yeah.
didn't miss much. Don't worry about it.
No, he did. It was really fun.
Well, I know that Kent has talked about that dinner every time I've ever talked to him.
What were you
since,
doing
so-
that made you miss it?
I can't remember, man. It was a legitimate commitment,
Okay.
but
You're going to the
There
Gutierrez?
was
yeah.
there was like a new series drop that night on Netflix.
Yeah, serious
Yeah.
commitment.
It was like the newest Great British Bake Off.
Yep.
And,
Okay, that does
right.
check out for Riley.
No, I
Should've
don't
missed
even watch that. My
You're
wife
You
does.
used to, bro.
You're obsessed.
You
I've,
used to.
I've probably watched one full season.
You wear a Great British Bake Off
Didn't
shirt
matter.
like every day to work.
It's just because I thrifted it.
That was a thrift. Okay, that's your
Hey,
excuse.
the biggest takeaway for me from that dinner was watching you do something at the restaurant, and that something was this. Excuse me, could I have a Naked and Famous? And they were like, yeah. And then they made it, and then you're like, this is a drink that I always get. And then I tried it, and I said, I think this will be the drink that I always get now.
And now he drinks 3 a night.
And now I'm in deep, dude. No, that's
There's a big Camelback on the
yeah,
counter.
Camelback of Naked and Famous. That sounds gross. That sounds like it would get like room temp.
Ew, why don't you guys give our listeners an idea of what a Naked and Famous is?
help us out, Kent. Just break it down. Come on.
Okay, yeah, the Naked and Famous. So, as made famous by Phil something from the Death and Co book, which is like back there somewhere, is equal parts lime, Aperol, Vita Mezcal or some other mezcal, and yellow chartreuse or green chartreuse.
Yellow.
One of those. Yellow, yeah, for real. And it's just shaken and then served like neat in a coupe. And it's so dang good. Like all these complex flavors come out. It's like, it's the real deal. It's like a great first dip your toe into like, fancy cocktails and mixology and whatnot, like really taking that next level dive in. And I was really hot on that at the moment. So I remember that too. That was so fun. I think we all got them, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's probably the official
Hopefully.
cocktail of this program at this point.
And our relationship.
Really?
The Coffee Sometimes podcast is brought to you by Naked and Famous.
It's not even a brand.
Equal parts.
One of my biggest
Mezcal.
takeaways from that dinner though was I won't forget, and Brooke too, like Brooke remembers this, is we sat down, and we got like a bunch. It's like a share type of place. It's like, just stuff starts flowing out.
didn't
The
even
bill
order
starts racking up. You hear like dig, 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 dig in the background of like the register. And Ethan was like, hey, real quick, I got to let you know, I'm more of a fingers than a fork type of guy. And I was like, oh.
It's the most
And then
cringy.
I got the minutes and I was like, he knows how to live life.
Dang.
He's on to something here.
You knew everything
And
you
it was
needed
just
to
like-
know about him right then.
Yeah. And this was like at the heat of COVID also. So
Right.
no, it wasn't. It was like way before that.
Yeah, and then I think our second face-to-face interaction with each other was when we hung out in Portland, which was definitely the highlight of that trip for me.
was
Every other part was pretty miserable, but that was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you went to like a coffee torture session, right? It was like
That's
for
right.
4 days in a row.
Yes.
Yeah. And you walked away with your Q grader certification.
Well, I failed,
right?
but
You-
yeah, I passed 19 of the 21 or whatever it was. So I had to go make up 2 tests in Greenville later.
Wow.
But it was fine.
They should have just passed you.
Yeah.
Right?
Coffee waterboarding.
But that was a super fun time as well. I remember we went to Schoolhouse,
Yeah.
and we went to
We literally like walked in the door, looked around, and we're like, now we're good.
Oh, yeah.
And we turned around.
for sure. Schoolhouse pretty much should be a sponsor of Valor at this point.
Yeah.
We bought a lot of their light fixtures, but I still haven't gotten an email from them about the whole ad.
It's
deal.
coming, baby.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
They like to play hard
Keep
to
plugging
get.
away.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's so much to get into. I mean, one thing that I guess we'll get to at some point is, since you are a how do I describe Voila, Cometeer, Jot, These are all like convenience.
Oh yeah, I would say like convenience coffee option,
like
a
specialty.
specialty.
Yeah, specialty convenience coffee, which, like, I don't know if I would guarantee you there is a good chunk of our listeners that had no idea that specialty instant coffee was even a thing.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you didn't do a good enough job at marketing. I'm just saying there's some people that, like may not know.
You can't reach everybody, Kent.
Yeah. And so that was very, very intriguing. Voila was like the first I had ever heard of specialty instant coffee. I think back to Cat and Cloud podcast, they had Steeped coffee as one of their sponsors, and Steeped is like a coffee tea bag kind of thing. Like you just literally put specialty coffee in a tea bag. They did a lot of other technology with it. I'm sure you know all about that, Kent. But that just
nitrogen flush.
Yeah, the fact that you started a specialty instant coffee company in the early days told me so much about who you are. Just that you value the innovation, you value pushing the envelope, but you also
I'm helping.
No, you're not. You're making fun of me. Okay, I talk with my hands. I'm just kidding. I love you.
This is a very sweet part. Please get back to that.
Yeah, back to complimenting you. Yeah, just the innovation. Yeah, and like challenging the status quo while also having like great taste. Literally, like with the fact that you liked good design, the packaging has always been super cool, especially the translucent lime green thing that you did. That was sick.
Yeah.
But I think that's a common thread in both of our businesses is taking the best from every world and putting it into one thing. Like for us, it's excellence in specialty coffee and like intentional design that looks cool, but it's also like the personality and the empathy and the hospitality neighborhood coffee shop side of things. So it's that. And for you, it was like the specialty quality, but also like the convenience. And I think that there's almost like a risk in that where whenever you label something as instant coffee, people automatically have preconceived notions of what that means, of like, oh, it's instant coffee. Like, why is it so expensive? And then you're like, no, but it's specialty. I promise. Like there's so much we could talk about with Voila, but like one comment on that, did you find that people didn't understand that it was like good instant coffee? I guess start there.
Yeah, well, thank you for just all you said. Like that's super, super nice. Like, yeah, it's kind of wild to look back and be, part of the early days of instant. I guess like now, I don't know, 7 years since like specialty instant was like first coming out in those early companies, and Voila as well. So yeah, thank you for those things. And I wanted to say before we like move on and answer that question, like it's really what you said about Valor too is really, really true. Like so many people look at coffee and they go, yeah, we're going to take the best of all these things. And what in their minds, like the best of all these things is just from a technical perspective, or like I would say like the difference between hard skills and soft skills, right? And like you guys being like, no, there's this whole, like you're only looking at half of the picture there. Like there's this whole other world of like, what is the best, you guys know, you talk about on the pod all the time, but like the service and the culture and like internally and externally as well. So I really looked up to you guys, and like you guys have changed my perspective a lot as well. And like, I think for a lot of cafes and owners are doing that in the industry. So like you guys are groundbreaking in your own way. So I look up to you guys. So that's really,
thank you.
Yeah. It's fun to kind of like push the boundaries, right? Like
yeah,
it's why we're all here to do stuff like that, because it's exciting. So the question was like, what was that like, or what was the question?
Yeah, just the marrying the convenience aspect with the specialty aspect.
People's response.
Yeah,
like such a wild time. Like I think of those first between 2016 to 2019 were like the Wild West, which it's probably still the Wild West of like instant, but specifically for specialty instant days. Like I would have people, I'll like dive in a little deeper, but like I would have people be like, what type of filter do I have to use to brew Voila? Like what? I'm not kidding.
Just overcomplicating it.
Yeah. I had somebody who worked for one of the top 3 US specialty, like, you know, grandfather companies. And I was in their laboratory and like doing a tasting for them. And they were like, do you have to pass, like, do you have to pass it through a filter? Like, do you have to, like, what temp do you recommend brewing it? Like, it just did not compute. And I started to see, like, there were 2 sides. The side of non-specialty people who just got it right away. It was like, oh, it's instant coffee. Like, we know what instant coffee is. And then all the specialty people who it was too simple and it was too low tech.
Wow.
From a user experience that it was like they couldn't get over it. And so what I had fun doing was like really pushing into the specialty culture, because I really wanted to set up Voila in a way where like the uncompromising quality was just the default starting point. And so that I could work my way back from there. Right. So like I didn't have to, I was never worried about like convincing people of it. I rather liked to challenge people by it. So a lot of our like early messaging was like, you know, this wouldn't be our copy, but like, just try it, you know, like,
yeah,
like kind of an attitude of like, then prove it's not good. Like prove that it doesn't have a place almost, because that challenge, I think like, especially because of how early it was, it just piqued everybody's interest, whether they liked it or they didn't. They would want to try it to either like disprove and tell people, instant's just a fad, specialty instant's just a fad, or be convinced by it. So we kind of leaned into that a lot and just kind of rode with that. That was a little bit of the attitude of the path I took, as kind of, I felt more like a trailblazer, especially in those early few years.
We call those trail bays on the program, just so you know. Trail bays.
Trail bays.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're a trail bay.
Yeah, definitely. I like that. I'm a trail bay, even though, the Portland Trail Blazers.
I definitely didn't expect that answer, as far as, because I was more so talking about like people that already know what instant is, you know, and they're like, why is it so expensive or whatever? But that totally makes sense. That, I mean, so how many years ago were you in that lab?
That one was I was in there probably 2018.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been that long since 2018, but like the coffee industry with trends moves so quickly, and just every trend moves so quickly now. But like, I feel like in 2018, making a V60 at home with a burr grinder and like an Acaia Pearl was like just starting to kind of be a thing, like at home.
Oh yeah.
And so that like
it's at scale, at least.
Yes. Yeah. And so it totally makes sense that
like some people had a cool cousin or like brother-in-law that did that.
Yes.
Shout out to all my brother-in-laws out there.
Yeah. So like overcomplicating it totally makes sense, because it's like this whole manual aspect of the coffee industry was rising, and you were coming at it with like, hey, I know you can nerd out about manual stuff, but also like if you're in an airport or you're in a rush, like just have some great coffee.
Yeah. People acted as if it was one way only. You know what I mean? It was so funny to just watch. It really, in reality, it wasn't this huge pushback. It wasn't like, anything more than even 10% of the people who were at least vocal on Instagram about it. But I had so much pushback from all these like coffee bros, these like manual bros who are like, you're stealing my joy away from specialty coffee. My joy is that routine in the morning, and my, counterclockwise, because I'm in the northern hemisphere and like that's the way the water moves, and like my Scott Rayo like swirl at the, like people were like you're stealing that from me. Like, you're the problem in this industry. Like, stop doing this.
Dang.
And I was like, when's the last time you went on a plane or like we're at a conference for like 4 hours? Like, did you bring that stuff? What's going on? Like, the reason I started Voila, just to go back to like the first thought and idea behind it, is because when I moved out here to Oregon, my family and I, like every year or most years, we go camping for like a week at a time. And so it's me, my wife, like 7 people. We go out in the middle of the desert, set up a tent. We have like that set up for 7 days, and it's super fun. And you know, I was the coffee guy, and I've said this, you know, in like podcasts forever ago, but I'll say it again. Like, when you're the coffee guy, it's on you to like make coffee for everybody. And so I had my Baratza and I had my Hario scale and my stuff. And then I had like a whole box of like just beans for everybody. And I'm trying to make like the jumbo French press too. And like, even the jumbo French press is like 4 cups for like 8-ounce cups. And so like 7 people to have like enough coffee, that's like all morning long.
Oh yeah.
You know? And I was like, there has to be a better way, for real. Like, there has to be a better way. And so it just came out of that idea of like, what if there could be something a little bit more simple, and like it could not be a compromise. Like, there's got to be a way. And it didn't hit for a few months. I was just thinking about it, and then I was like, wait, what about instant coffee? And at that time, there was no specialty instant, like, at all. Like, Google search specialty instant coffee, or like really, really good instant coffee, third wave instant coffee, like zero. Nothing was showing up. Nobody was doing anything, or at least publishing that they were making instant coffee at the time. And I was like, okay, I got to do it. I guess I got to do it. Like, how do I do this? Like, where do I buy a freeze dryer? And I just like bought a freeze dryer.
Where did you get the idea for freeze drying?
I mean, like, how do people make instant coffee?
Okay.
Like YouTube.
So that's just like
how to make instant coffee.
common knowledge that you can glean.
Yeah, there's like 2 types of processing: spray drying and freeze drying. And then some people do like a combination of both, an amalgamation method where they like mostly spray dry and then like do a little sprinkle of, you know, freeze dry on top of that. And there's like, technically there's more methods than that, or like variations upon those 2, but really those are the only 2. And like the easiest way to look at it is like, if it looks like a big chunk, it was probably freeze dried. Chunk or crystal, freeze dried. If it's like sand, like powder, like dust, you know, and it just like is completely free flowing, that's spray dried. Spray drying just uses heat, and it just doesn't taste good at all. But I mean freeze dried doesn't taste that great either. So
you got your freeze dryer in the mail, and then what?
Did it come in the mail?
Yeah, it came in the mail. It was so expensive, guys. Like
$30.
I didn't have a job. I like shut down my coffee cart because I only lost money doing that.
Preach.
We hear you, man.
Guys, like, I feel like you guys did it a lot longer than me, but like we shared similar woes. Mine was on a bike, and it was propane powered. The espresso machine was propane fired, and like, I live in the high desert, so like in the morning it's really cold. In the afternoon it can get like pretty warm, and like just everything, and like, you know, my wastewater line just like coming apart as I go over a bump.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Anyway,
I'm twitching.
On pod.
So yeah, some flashbacks, but I wasn't doing anything. Like, I had built one prototype cart for somebody else, so I had like $1,500 from that. And then I'd flipped a Synesso, like one of the very first gen Synesso Syncras, that has a first name. Like the manufacturer gave it a name. Like I'd bought that from somebody, and I thought I was going to use it for some weird thing. I was just like, I'll buy this Syncra, and I'd flipped it and made a small little profit. And I was like, I sunk all of that into my first freeze dryer and was like, I'll just figure it out. Like, I'll just do it. I'll just put coffee in and see what happens. Like, nobody was doing that. And I was just like, I just have to figure out that. It was like insatiable to see what would happen. So
I want you to continue in your story, but This is a similar thought process to something that I've thought about a lot, and I'm sure that I know for a fact that this is a thing already. But you know, like you have you ever play with a Keurig machine? I'm sure you have, and it doesn't. It's impressive for what it does, but usually the coffee in the K cups is bad, and so that is always like ever since Keurig has been a thing. That's the thing I've wondered is what if we change. The only thing we change about this whole process is that you have specialty coffee in this K cup, as opposed to, you know, whatever Javalia or, you know, Pike Place is in there. So it's just kind of similar, like using the same freeze drying method. You know, if you was that your thought process that you were like, I'm just going to try to make instant coffee like everybody else does, except I'm going to use good coffee?
That's like groundbreaking thought, like good coffee in. Done. Solved. So, you know, I thought it was that simple. That's like really funny. But yeah, I remember putting in a pour over as like my first profile, like not knowing what a freeze drying profile like even was or what it was actually doing like on the physical level. And I got it out and I was like, boy, here we go. And I'm like, okay. Like burnt dollar bills. Yeah. Char. Okay. Yeah. Far off, like pretty far off. Yeah. And around, you know what's cool though, is like around that time that I was iterating and like, testing different brewing methods and like trying to figure out what would click and what would work and like figuring out the freeze dryer is Sudden just like launched all of a sudden. They just quietly launched. And I was like, I remember where I was like eating gelato and I got an email from like Barista Hustle. They like gave them a shout out and they're like, what? A $6 cup of instant coffee? And I was like, okay, it's all over. It's all over. Somebody beat me to it.
And Sudden is what Sudden was like one of the first specialty instant coffee companies to the scene.
They were first to market 100%. So they're out of San Francisco, and they're no longer around, same as Voila. But yeah, I remember feeling like completely gutted, what's gonna like somebody just beat me to this. It's over. They have funding probably. And I ordered one and I was like, let's just see how it tastes. And I got that cup in and I was pretty far along in my process, in my profile at this point. And I cupped it and I was like, this is pretty good. And I did it side by side on mine. I was like, I'm getting more nuance out of this already. Like I'm tasting more. Not that like, you know, I don't want to come on the pod and be like, oh, mine was better than theirs or anything. But like that gave me the hope of like, okay, somebody sees value in this. I went from saying somebody beat me to this to like somebody else sees value in this idea. They're getting funding. It was like concept validation at that point. And I was like, people are going to think I'm following them, and that's fine. But like, I will have my own take. I'll have my own process. And like, that was a really cool moment because it put like a little bit more wind in my sails of like, this is worth pursuing, you know? So, that was cool. And so we just kept pushing on and did a Kickstarter after this, after that point. And that was a huge learning experience as well. Like lost money on the Kickstarter for like all the rewards halfway through the Kickstarter. Yeah. Oh man. Halfway through the Kickstarter, like all of my equipment broke and like no one could fix it. Like all of my freeze dryers broke. So I couldn't make cups and I was like technically selling them, you know, on Kickstarter. Oh, so I was like, oh, okay, I have to fulfill like 3,000 cups of instant coffee plus like all this swag I spent money on. And I can't even make like one cup right now. So those were like the early dark days. Yeah. What was your guys' Kickstarter like?
It was kind of a joke, honestly. All the rewards were terrible. We didn't do very well with it, barely made it, and then we were really, really late on all the rewards. So everything that could have been bad that we could have done. However, we are running a Kickstarter for our Dunwoody location, more for the sense of like giving people a a feeling of investment within that situation.
Yeah.
And clearly, just
Yeah.
since we're an established company, delivering on those things is going to be a lot easier. And it's like,
Right.
it's all actually like really good prizes and deals. It's more of like, there's a couple on there where it's like, yeah, you're throwing us a bone if you do these. But there's also like
Gold.
$1,000 for coffee for a year, which for us is like, I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, it's wild, like what you learn, like those early days where you're just like, I don't know, are you just blinded by like your passion, especially being that young too? You know, you're just like so naive. You're just like, I'm gonna do it. Let's go.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, if we didn't have that, then we had nothing, I guess.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
If nothing else, like I always say, the only thing that has made this company succeed is because we have been willing to do things that we didn't know how to do. Like every single bit of it. Like even, you know, running a business, like really making good coffee when we first started, how to use a camera and film a podcast. Like we just limped our way along and
Figure it out.
here we are.
And
Yeah.
what I was going to say is you're saying the dark days of the Kickstarter and all that. And that's just not to mention you're doing this all by yourself, right?
Yeah, 100% by myself until about halfway through the Kickstarter. I had like this person who went to my church. Her son had like moved to town and, you know, moved back from Seattle and like, you know, he wanted to do something and I was like, sure, you can join in and I'll teach you about coffee. I could use some free help. And like, that was, interesting experience, you know, like starting to share that with somebody. And, I ended up giving some equity away to this person, who was no longer with the company after, you know, a certain point. But yeah, just like, seeing the value in having somebody come along your side and like help you with your vision and like feel invested in it. But also like the flip side as well. Like I'm an only child. So like having somebody like partner with me to work on some like my own idea, was a big learning experience for me. Like a lot of stuff I wasn't comfortable with, like, you know, somebody taking, you know, my vision and thought and like inputting their own into that, was, I don't know, a lot to learn from that for sure. So, I mean, I respect that, how you guys go about like being partners as well. Like, yeah, I'm sure people are like, oh, that looks so fun. Like you're just hanging out all the time.
With your best friends.
It's like, you know, people don't see that. It's like, it's three totally different people with their own ideas that come to the table and like have to be valued equally, you know, like that's not easy. That's not fun all the time. Like, especially I mean, could you imagine being married to like two people and like coming home and it's like, all right, where are we going to eat tonight? You know, like,
Too many
just
opinions.
think about that. Way too many. Yeah. That's a great analogy too, right? That's really gonna hit with a lot of listeners.
Yeah, let's really press in on that whole thruple thing. You know, it's really spent a lot of time there on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's not always like going to a Falcons game, you know, on a Sunday and having the best dang day of your life, but
Being hoarse for the podcast.
sometimes it is, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a ton of fun. Most of the time it's a ton of fun.
Yeah. Well, I think it took us a long time to figure out how each other work.
Right.
And I feel like once we figured that out, it was just way easier.
Pretty easy sledding at this point.
Yeah. Which, I mean, like we know how to disagree and still help everybody feel heard and respected.
Like this morning when you really wanted to go get a dryer. And I
Right.
said, Ross, we don't have time for you to get a dryer. We got Kent coming on the pod.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing you said verbatim was like, that would suck. and I was like, all right, this is important.
Can I tell you guys about a funny story like early on in Kickstarter world that I don't think anybody knows? Like, this is really wild. Whoa. So like, picture this, right? It's kind of like the Kickstarter completed. I owe, all these people hundreds of thousands, like 210 people, like X amount of cups of coffee. And I cannot make it because my 2 freeze dryers that I have at that time are busted. Totally busted. Nobody knows what's wrong with them. This is like really early in the manufacturer of the freeze dryer, like really early in their company as well. Like they've never had anybody like redline these machines like I was. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be other freeze dryers out there. Like maybe somebody can do this, like freeze drying companies, like searching these up. Right. And like, I find a company like 2 hours away from me. I'm like, yes, 2 hours away. Let's go. Let's brew up some coffee. And I'm just like wasting money on this coffee. Like I'm buying so much coffee to just like keep ruining it. And I'm paying for all of it from like all these awesome roasters. And, so I like brew it up. I freeze it. I drive it 2 hours over the pass here. And I'm like, show up to this address, and I'm like in somebody's neighborhood, like a residential neighborhood.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, what? I like knock on the door. It's this address. It's this door. Like dogs are barking immediately. It's like this lady comes to the door. I'm like, is this, I won't say the name of the company. It was like blah, 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 Lio, like freeze drying. And like, hold on, I'll get them. And this dude comes out and like slides and just like a hoodie. He's like, hey, around back here. And I go into his backyard and he just has like a shed. And he's like, sure, I'll just put it in here. And when do you want to pick it up? Oh my gosh. Like not only that, but just, I did that multiple times. And just like every time is ruined. And I'm paying some random dude in his like neighborhood whose neighbors probably like hate him for running this equipment. Mm-hmm. And, gosh, like those were desperate times.
Did it work?
Another time. What?
Did it work?
Oh no, not at all. It was horrible. It was awful. And I was like, please do this profile. And he's like, that's a lot of work, man. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm paying this guy and he's just like, he can't do it. So I have like so many stories like that. One time I went out to Missouri and like I'd been talking to this company for months and I shipped a brewer to Missouri, flew to Missouri, met some random guy there who I hired to just like help me do this and accomplish this. Like flew out with my coffee grinder and a bunch of coffee. And I'm like brewing on site in like somebody's basement that he knew that was like, yeah, sure. Set up in our basement to run these coffee tests, whatever. And like, I'm running these profiles and same thing. He has me show up at his house and like drop off all this liquid. I'm like, where's your facility? He's like, oh yeah, we got a really big facility. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Takes me out to dinner. I'm like starting to question all this. I looked this guy up like towards the end of my trip. He's like, has some record for, like sexual misconduct and I like call him out on what he was doing. And he, was just using the same freeze dryers that I was trying to graduate from and avoid. And he didn't tell me. So he didn't even have his own freeze dryers. He was just running something out of his garage. And like, man, some wild early day stuff of just like trying to get somebody to process coffee for me, like trying to get something to work. Okay, I'll say on the pod, like none of that stuff was used. That was just for trials. Like, you do weird stuff when you're like desperate to like make something new happen and make it work, especially with the pressure of like, all those people writing you on Kickstarter all the time.
Whoa.
Man. Yeah. So did you ever have anyone at that point tell you, I remember in our early startup days when things were pretty tough, we had some mentors around us that were like, you're going to miss these days of just like grinding it out. So like enjoy it while it lasts. And in those times when you're in Missouri with the sex offender, it's You're probably not enjoying those startup times, huh?
It's only a funny story to look back on.
Yeah.
And it's like, like those become the badges of honor really in your company. Like we used to name, like when we started buying a bunch of freeze dryers, we used to name each one like one of those companies' names and like put to like honor how bad that phase was. And so we'd put their names all up on the different units. It was funny, but yeah, no, I don't miss those. Those were horrible. Like the stress, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had those first 2 freeze dryers. I guess what's your journey with processing yourself, like freeze drying? Like how many freeze dryers did you go through?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We went through so many. At one point we bought like day 1 of when Voila was supposed to actually launch. We purchased $100,000 freeze dryer, this lab grade. Like we went from these tiny little like home mom and pop units to we're going to buy a big lab grade dryer. And the thing showed up and it was a lemon, like literally did not work and had to pay a 15% restocking fee. Like, can you imagine that? And like that company's lawyers were involved. This was like so early. And so we tried to make it work despite all the odds and like nobody wanting to dry coffee. And so we pivoted. We started buying just getting more and more of these smaller units and kind of working from there. Finally figuring out a system that functioned, launching. So we had, I would say at the peak, like 12 freeze dryer units when we had them in-house and we were doing it. And without a doubt, like 2 were always broken at a time. These are just like not meant to be commercial units. And just to like explain like why would we do that? Like why wouldn't we just buy one big one? It's like the gap between like one of these small units per output, cost wise, like dollars per output is at least 20x going from a home to a commercial. Wow. So like you're paying 20 times more for the same amount of output. So like that's a big jump to make when you're ready to actually go like full commercial. And it's like millions and millions of dollars to like jump into something like that. So my journey was, kind of doing it in-house, always testing and having R&D going for like a third-party contractor to dry. And nobody wants to really touch coffee. Like I understand why, but like I didn't for a long time. And so yeah, we just had to do it ourselves. We had to do a lot ourselves. And I kind of looked at Voila and what we were doing as like taking all these things that have been developed from other industries, from craft beer, from, kombucha, from all these, those are bad examples, but like in taking those and applying them to coffee. And so for the coffee world, like freeze drying was only done one way. Like it had been developed. There's no changing it. There's massive industries that do it at scale. And so like, who am I to come in and change that and to speak with, their head of profile development who has a PhD and be like, the way you're doing it is wrong. You're ruining it. Why'd you apply the heat at this stage for this time under this, it all just felt like an uphill battle. And that's changed, I think, and it's changing more and more. But it was weird. It was a lot of like banging my head against the wall. And especially, you guys can probably relate to this. Trying to talk to somebody about coffee who has no context and vocabulary for coffee. Mm-hmm. And explain why, like, especially to these guys who like it's in their garage and like they screwed something up. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I know you think it tastes good. It's supposed to have a bergamot note and it doesn't. Whoa. Like this is really good. Like, no. Like, I don't really care if you think it's good. Why are you drinking it anyway? Like, yeah. So there was a lot of that. It's,
he's like, I drank half of it
hopefully we
already. It was great.
I had people tell me that.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, at one time, I'm not sure if this is still a thing. I'm sure you know, but Voila was rated. One of your coffees was it from Cirque, I believe, was the highest rated
Yeah.
specialty coffee in the world. Do you know if that's still standing?
I think it is, although like I think it's probably not. That one is not anymore. But yeah, that was pretty big. Yeah, I think we got. Did we break the 90 point? I think we got 90 points or something like that.
I think you're right. From my research I did before this podcast.
The instant coffee?
Yeah, it was a 90-point instant coffee
What
from coffee reviews.
from Coffee Reviews.
What is the impact of a headline like that?
None.
Yeah, like because that's always the thing,
Like very little.
right? You always want to
Yeah.
get like a big headline like that, like the number one top rated, or like the biggest reporter or the biggest editor posts that. But it like, I mean, you got that headline and then what?
We just used it in a lot of like copy and we just like incorporated that into the brand messaging a lot.
Yeah.
Trying to explain it like the highest scoring coffee ever made. And we had some friends at like Gear Patrol and stuff like that, and so we would take that and push it to them and say, hey, look, this would make a good headline, and that worked for us for sure. Like, but we had to put the effort in. Like, we never did any paid marketing or PR firm or anything like that. But I was always surprised. We were in a lot of good publications. We were in Gear Patrol a ton. I love Uncrate, and we were in Uncrate, and like nothing ever happened.
Like you didn't even see any uptick in sales at all whenever those would drop.
Oh, like. If any, it'd be like, oh, wow, these 6 people came over from Uncrate this morning. It's like, what?
I see. Interesting.
I'm sure we just had like the worst website, maybe it just didn't convert. But yeah, like the press was fun, but it didn't last. I think the biggest thing that ever made an impact, like we would see over and over on our analytics, was this video that some guy locally here that has like this camping vlog did his own little review early on, like when I was printing and stamping like packets. Like he did, like just after Kickstarter days, he did a review and compared our coffee, and just he had an audience, and that audience like kept coming back through his blog and that YouTube video. And I'm sure his audience is like nothing compared to all these like big publications that we were like in.
Right.
But that was one of the highest impact things. What about you guys? Do you guys ever get like written up anywhere and try to track that at all?
Not really ever. If it's kind of been few and far between. I mean, we definitely haven't been on any bigger publication than just like Sprudge. It's not saying Sprudge, you got a good thing going. You get visitors. I get it. Yeah. But
yeah,
it was like an article for our rebrand. And I think we got like a little bit of traffic from it, but definitely we didn't like convert any regulars or anything like that. So
yeah, I remember that when it came out. I think people were like texting that link to me. So. I think it made an impact for sure, at least in the coffee world.
We were just talking about this whole thing before we started recording and before you came on, of like, Riley was like, what would happen if we just dumped a ton of money into Instagram ads?
I mean, not even that we're thinking about doing that, but I was just like, if I just like threw $30,000 for the next 60 days in Instagram ads, like, could we even come close to recouping? And I mean, obviously, in that period of time, the answer is probably no. But we were mainly just having like commentary on, these companies, like maybe one of the ones that we got sitting on the table right now, who have insane advertising budgets.
Right.
And it's all about, getting into people's evoked set, and I mean, for them specifically, I guess it's kind of working, but it's just an interesting conversation to riff on, if nothing else.
We haven't teased it at all. Like, coming up at the end of this pod, stay tuned. We're going to taste some convenience coffee options.
Oh, yeah.
Specialty convenience coffee, Kent.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
contrasting the difference like between these big headlines, right? Where it's like this big, what do you even call that? Like a website, I guess.
Media corporation.
Yeah,
situation,
media corporation where their readers don't have this like diehard fandom for like Gear Patrol or Wall Street Journal, whatever it is. It's like there's no like WSJ junkies out there, but like this vlog guy,
there are.
this vlog guy, it's like he has a way smaller audience, way smaller reach.
He's tiny,
but he has.
He's small.
Like literally, this guy's small, and
Friggin' shrimp.
he has dedicated, like bought in fans, and so that smaller fan base had more of an impact because they have this element of trust with this guy. And it's like if we just ran Instagram ads, sure we would reach millions of people that we wouldn't have reached, but they don't trust us. Like they don't know our brand. And so what he was saying is like, if we ran this like super expensive Instagram ad, it would be less about like, hey, go to our website, landing page, buy a box of free throw. And it would be more of like, hey, follow our brand. And then that kind of gets people more bought in and trusts, that which leads to trust, which leads to a sale.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about. All that.
Like I would like to make this a little bit more practical for like any business owners, somebody starting a product to think about this. And like, I do think that paid ads and paid, content like that does work at a certain like threshold of, investment for sure. It's like there's agencies that do this and like it works. Obviously, like it can generate a lot of sales, but if you're going organic, there's nothing better than just finding the people who have, like you said, that influence in their own marketplace, like those micro influencers, and just like building relationships. Like I think about the people who pre-Kickstarter I sent a box to because I liked them on Instagram. I was like, I just wanted to get to know them on Instagram. And like one is shout out like Michael Flores. Like, I don't know if you guys see him on Instagram or anything. Like he's like kind of a coffee influencer. I'm still tight with him today.
My God.
And like, I just wanted to share a box of Voila. And like, we have a real relationship. Like I've gotten him into SCA. We like hung out, outside of, like wherever, there's doing coffee expos. I've gone and visited him in Salt Lake when he used to live there. And like, there's the real things make a bigger impact because like you're not going to be able to track that conversion, but like he supports Voila and he tells his friends and like his friends trust him, and like this guy on YouTube, like I just have a hard time believing that there's any more valuable thing than just building real authentic relationships with people, especially if like you're trying to push a product to where you're not just pushing a product, like you're just building relationships, and that takes you like so much further. That would be my number one advice is like, just be connected. Like the phone and the Instagram and like the access we have is like bringing the entire world and your entire community back into like high school is how I like to think of it. Is like, if you wanted, you could get to know every single person who you went to high school with. And like, you could talk to them, you could walk right up to them. They're right there. And like, that's what Instagram does for us actually, is like, it puts all of these people right here. And all we have to do is like reach out and like build those relationships. And I think that's like, now looking back post Voila as well, like that's way more important. Like those are the people who, when I posted that we were closing our doors, like reached out to me and were like, how are you doing? And like still do, like, how you feeling? Everything okay? I don't know. That's more valuable than tracking the conversion to me, at least if I were to do that on a small scale, I think.
Well, hey, case in point, you reached out to us on Instagram and now you're on one of the biggest podcasts in the country for that matter.
Okay. Here's the thing though. I told Ross this. No ads on my app.
Up.
What?
Okay.
Riley. No ads on
All
my
right.
app.
I won't. We'll
I'm
cancel our
laying down the
mid-roll.
law. When you go on Anchor or whatever, and you have that little toggle to flip on a little ad, not on my app.
You got it.
I'm not going to put up with it.
Okay. Okay.
Not my app.
Not even for our wholesale program. Valor Wholesale.
No. You can do all your own ads.
Okay.
100%.
Right.
Just
We already did one for
I don't
Naked
wanna
and
hear about-
Famous. So
That's true. Yeah.
And hey,
I don't want to hear about the freelancer podcast or whatever.
I'm about to do another
Freelancer.
ad. Are you familiar with
Okay.
Yelp? Answer the question. You were asking.
Yep.
You were asking about press, and we did crack into the top 100 on Yelp's best coffee shops in the U.S.
and Canada.
and Canada. Do yourself a favor. Make a mental note or get out your phone and try to look at that list. And I would be very surprised if you could name another coffee shop out of the 99, because I have no idea how we ended up on this list.
Well, it's because you know that Food and Wine's list of the best coffee shops, like every single one of those has 4 stars on Yelp.
Well, yeah, and we know all of the ones
Yes.
on Food and Wine or like Eater or Thrillist, but then on Yelp,
Yeah.
I'm like, what? What is this?
The ones that
What
actually
does that say
get
about
good
us?
reviews.
You know,
That's what I'm saying.
I have a question. Do you guys remember when I came out? I came out with Zane, and we went out to
Lapeer.
that one restaurant. Yep, Lapeer. And we were really just connecting, like bro to bro moment. We were like, having deep conversations. I can't remember if Riley was there. I'm just kidding. You were there.
Come on,
We were
dude.
like really vibing. And you guys asked me, you're like, so we finally opened the doors to our newest cafe. Kent, what do you think? What's it like seeing it on Instagram and visiting in person? And I just decided in that moment to be a straight up meanie and knock you guys down for no absolute reason.
What did you say?
You remember that?
I think I remember.
don't remember.
I remember. Well, okay. Say what you said, and I'll tell you if I remember.
I think about it all the time. I think about this all the time because I was like, I so regret that moment because I was having such a good time with you guys, and I didn't have to say. I could have like said anything. Like I was just so stoked for you guys, and I said something like, it seems a little bit smaller in person. Not sure I was expecting that. And you guys were just like, that's what you have to say. I could tell, like, we probably had like one Naked and Famous at that point each. We were having a good time. And I should have just like matched that energy and been like, guys, like I'm blown away. Congrats. Like I could have said anything. And I decided to say that it was a bit smaller in person than on Instagram for no reason.
Well,
So I wanted to say sorry on pod.
I haven't thought about that moment since
is-
then. Maybe it was the Naked and Famouses,
Talking.
but
Yeah.
but
That'll-
no apology
that'll do
needed,
the
man.
trick.
I think I don't remember who asked that question. Do you remember?
It would have been you or Ethan.
It sounds like a
It's
question
probably
I would ask.
It's you.
Because if
You would. I think you would ask me that.
when I ask that question, I really do want to know, like, what.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for you to gas us up. Like I was really
Yeah.
looking for someone because I'm really interested in that. Like somebody who follows us on Instagram or interacts with our digital content, and then they come in the cafe. Their experience really, really matters. It matters just as much as everybody else's experience. But like that. So I that's why I probably wasn't offended, because I really want to know.
If I asked, it was just because I wanted you to tell me that you thought I was pretty. So
Yeah, I could probably tell like that's why you were asking, Ross, and I was probably just like trying to pump my own ego up a little bit by giving like an actual piece of feedback instead of just being a friend.
It is small.
Like that feedback is like barely valid anyway. It's not that small. You could fit like
30 people.
30 plus people in there.
It's honestly not that small.
Yeah.
Kent.
It's
You know what? Let's just wrap here.
Ethan.
On that note,
Dude, I want to taste some of these freaking coffees. Can we like keep talking and drink
Yeah,
coffee?
yeah.
I haven't
So-
had coffee today, and I'm like, I'm going to.
you're gonna pass out. So
Wait. Can we hit on one thing before we taste them that will bridge into it?
yeah.
this is your program.
So Kent, why did Voila and how did Voila make the highest rated cup of instant coffee? How did you finally, just hit on all cylinders?
Can you please explain how a freeze dryer works while you do it?
Yeah, it's super, super easy. We would go to Trader Joe's, buy their instant coffee, get some citric acid, put a little bit of that in, and repackage it.
Acidity
And it
is so quality. Wow.
yeah. Put a little sugar, put a little citric acid in there. No one ever found out.
Genius.
I'm
Salt.
really
Wow.
for real though. Like I should say, like how we did it.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. I think this is going to sound so like internal memo copy-esque, but like I really had this like relentless nature to continue taking things to the next level. And so that's like a cop-out answer, but I'll like try to answer for real. It's like every time we would reach a new level, right? We would implement one new step or process that would take the quality up a notch. It would be like, okay, what's next? Now what's the next thing we can do to get it beyond this? Like I was just never satisfied, and I was so critical of what we were doing that I think that as like an overarching thing is what got us there. Like that was the vehicle that got us to that point. And so
Never settle for good enough. Ken.
we kind of
never settle for good enough.
I can't even read that because it's too blurry.
It's an Onyx
I'm gonna-
coffee, so that's why I said that.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, like we just kept trying things. Like R&D was my main priority. Like every month, every piece of downtime, I was just thinking like, how can I iterate on this to make it better? How can I reduce the variables that contribute to negative flavor, that contribute to defects? And so like without going into it too much, like really all I was ever trying to do is like increase the clarity, increase the sweetness, and like bring what I was tasting at the cupping table from whole bean into that final product, into somebody's home. And so, yeah, we just tried a lot, and we weren't afraid to try something that was like really wild and ridiculous. Like all the time we tried something wild that people were like, what? Like that this doesn't apply to coffee, or like this doesn't matter. Like even like talking to some of the founders of these other instant companies, like once I became friendly with them, I would ask them questions like, are you guys doing this? And they're like, no, why would we do that? I'm like, oh my gosh, they're like, they're missing out on like so much more potential. And I think like people just get comfortable once they hit a certain level, like they're tired, they get some sort of success, and they just get more comfortable. And I was never comfortable. In that entire 6 years that I was doing Voila, I would never drink Voila recreationally ever, unless I was on a plane or had no other option, like even traveling, because anytime I would taste Voila outside of our own facility, I was analyzing and critiquing. And so it wasn't fun for me. It wasn't ever enjoyable. Like even our best coffees that I enjoy now, was never something that I just had fun with on the weekend. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll brew up a cup in the morning, because I was always dissecting it and thinking, how can it be better and better and better and better? So it's kind of like the neurotic nature that I have to do stuff like that. But that was fun. That's where it was actually enjoyable for me. So it doesn't really answer the question. Like, it doesn't give anything for like any cafe owner out there to like make their own instant and make it better. But it's just a mindset more than anything else, and like really doing the research and really just like looking across different industries, I would say.
Yeah, definitely helpful for any leader or any cafe owners to like get inspiration from different industries. Because like when we're only inspired by our industry, it's kind of like if the industry is only ever inspired by the industry, it's like we'll never move forward.
And especially coffee too, right? Like we were just talking about in 2018, 2019, like the hot thing was the V60. Like, our industry is so young, and people don't get that because the specialty industry hit like a restart 10 years ago or so, or maybe 20 years ago. Okay. Like, that's so young. Before then, it was just, how do we come up with some BS marketing term to convince people that it's like better? So like, I don't know, gourmet was a thing. Like that was the innovation pre, and like now specialty, like we just came up with canned coffee. We just thought of it to put coffee in a can. We just thought of cold coffee. Like 2 seconds ago, we just thought of that for the first time ever. You know what I mean? Like, our industry is so young. There's so much white space. That's like why I loved it so much. And like why I was happy when coffee people told me it wasn't possible. And like other like coffee manufacturers and whatever they were manufacturing were like, no, we don't do this with coffee. And I was like, you don't know. Like, you don't know. No one's tried.
That was a great response. And I would be interested to press into more stuff as we brew these.
Yeah, let's do it. Let me fire up some water, and I'll be right back.
You got it. What do you guys want to talk about while Kent's gone?
Well, we I know we've kind of hinted at it, but with Kent starting Voila, and Voila being his baby for all those years, having some other specialty convenience products that are out there, because for a while it was like steeped and instant coffee were really the only two that I knew about. Is that the same for you guys?
Like Steeped and Voila.
Yeah.
And
Swift, maybe. Like
he mentioned, he
Sudden.
would talk about Sudden.
Right. And I know friend of the program, David Funk, always was into the convenience stuff.
Mainly Voila.
Yeah.
Just to say, after he tried all of them, Voila was his favorite.
Right. And so since then, there's been a number of different products. I know this product, Cometeer, the first I heard of it was about, I would say 3 months ago. I'd be interested to know actually how old this company is. But Rachel, my wife, got an Instagram ad, and it was like something really compelling and beautiful, the ad was. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, okay. And then
we're probably ruining all of this by leaving it sitting here to thaw.
It's supposed to thaw a little bit.
Oh.
You're supposed to run it under hot. Anyways, Cometeer, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see in frame. They come in little packages like this, but it's kind of like in the shape of a K-cup. And I think this is like the theme with so many like convenience coffee products is that it's like in theory so simple. I don't know how they do this, but it looks so simple. I'm sure it's not, but it's essentially just frozen.
I bet he will have more
Yeah,
insight.
yeah. Kent's grabbing water right now so he can speak into it, but it's frozen concentrated coffee that you dilute with water.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, and so we bought this pack. Kent was supposed to have this, but they didn't ship it in time.
That is a critique.
That is a critique.
We ordered these at the exact same time, and Kent's is just still processing.
That's right. It hasn't shipped yet. The other thing, this is also something that my wife got an Instagram ad for, and that was the first I heard of it, is Jot Ultra coffee. And this, well, let me back up. So the way that this Cometeer coffee was shipped is it was in a freezer box thing, and it had dry ice at the bottom. So it arrived with dry ice, and it was in like a freezer box.
Free shipping?
I can't remember, honestly. I know that this whole pack was like $64. So anyways, that's how it came. Jot coffee was shipped not refrigerated. So it's a shelf stable product. It does say refrigerate after opening, but the whole idea is that you put 8 ounces of water or milk, what have you, is what it says. That's funny. So yeah, Kent, you back on, buddy?
Back on,
Soup's on
live.
Well, so we were just.
Did you guys talk about how both Cometeer and Jot get a DNF, did not finish or did not compete because they didn't ship mine?
Yes, Jot. So Cometeer, their shipping was frustrating. Jot, it's out for delivery as we speak, and so we had the idea for those two, and then Kent sent this Saturnbird. I said that both times. I don't know why. Saturnbird coffee. And Kent, why did you want this one on the program?
Yeah, this one's really interesting to me because I saw them kind of come to market towards the end of working on Voila, maybe 2 to 3 years ago at this point. And what interested me is, for one, they're doing like a really completely unique form factor for the packaging. 2, they're out of China, and I haven't seen any specialty instant come out of China yet that has really like made a bigger name, except for Saturnbird. And 3, visually, their like texture and crystal formation looked really similar to Voila's at a certain point, like less milled, but in all of their like imaging on their website, it looked similar to Voila. So I was like, I wonder how it tastes. So I've been wanting to try because, like we know some of the US players, and, seeing what's coming out of China is maybe a little bit more interesting.
Go international, baby.
And I don't know them at all too. So
do you know anything about Cometeers or Jot or any of? I mean, you just kind of like explained Saturnbird. Do you know anything about the other things on the table and their processing whatsoever?
I can only assume. So like knowledge, I don't have like real tangible knowledge of what Jot and what Cometeer does for their processing, but I have an idea. And especially I was really hoping to taste it because then I'd really be able to pick up on like whether I was right or not, but yeah, essentially both of them are making a form of a concentrate. Jot is absolutely making their shelf stable. I think is actually really, it can be very easy to do that actually. But not easy from the sense of like getting FDA approval on it being shelf stable. Like that's been a big hang up for a lot of companies. And so I find that interesting because, if you're making instant, you're essentially making a version of a concentrate and then processing it further beyond that.
Do you think they're just like, there's some form of pasteurization that's going on maybe? Because on the ingredients, it says water, coffee.
Yeah, cool. No, I don't think so for Jot because you can open it and you don't have to refrigerate it, right?
It does say refrigerate after opening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There could be. I would have to taste it. Not that I would like pick up on it right away, but I would maybe be able to guess with more certainty. There's definitely ways to make a concentrate without pasteurization or heat treatment of any sort. Like I said, it's super, super difficult to get that past the FDA, though.
Kent, let's make our own version, man. Why not us?
Why not you?
Why not us?
Your
Why
own
not
version of-
now?
What do you want to make?
A convenient specialty product.
I think you should.
Sounds hard.
Sounds really hard.
What?
We don't really have a lot
Sounds-
going on right now, so we could probably make time for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like right now,
That's good.
before testing any of these, I'm just going to tell you, I just know the Cometeer is going to be the best. And the reason I know is because it's the least convenient.
Sure.
By far the least convenient. And that's the isn't that what this is all about, is convenience. And so knowing that the Cometeer isn't going to work for me in the airport
Yeah.
is a big drawback. It's like a perfect situation for home, for sure.
Perfect for home.
But then if you're already at home, why not do something else?
Because it's a lot easier. And like, okay, I mean, we'll get into this, but like, let's assume that the extraction is like awesome on all of these. If I can trust Cometeer to nail this, what is this? SL34 natural Uganda from Black and White. Like, if I can trust them to nail that extraction instead of me on my Baratza Encore and my, like, who knows how good my water is, then it totally makes sense for me to get one of these.
And from a roaster perspective, the pitch is probably pretty good. Of like, it ensures that your customer is going to get like the proper representation of your coffee.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that's the big pull with all of these is like that's a really unique thing to control the variables to the end cup. Like there's very little that can go wrong at the consumer level,
right?
With convenience coffee.
That's a big upside. Things not going wrong.
That was a big selling point, for me to, convince roasters early on. It's like, no, we know what it's going to taste like in somebody's house. You know how many times I've sold a bag of beans and I'm like, do you need this ground? What are you going to brew it on? They're like, oh, the plunger thing. And you're like, oh,
yeah,
you might not want that coffee. Maybe you want this coffee instead.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you all know. And like, that's kind of sucks to feel like somebody who's super excited, like, oh, but you're the last ingredient to mess that up.
Yes. Yeah. And honestly, chances are, like, if you have someone who just makes Folgers every morning in their
There
Mr.
it is.
They make Folgers every morning in their Mr. Coffee machine. They've been doing that for 30 years. And then they put like our, like, Ethiopia washed Gotiti. I guarantee you the Folgers is going to like taste better to that person.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just like, it's easier to extract a dark roast that's terrible than it is to like extract this like delicate Ethiopian on a Mr. Coffee machine.
The forgiveness of it all is like huge for sure. Yeah. So, okay. What are my thoughts on like Cometeer first? Super cool. The roasters that they're partnering with. I get that. I think that's a really great model. That's like the model that Voila took. We wanted to, like, nobody knows who Cometeer is day one. Nobody knows who Voila is day one. Partnering with roasters who already have like a customer base to siphon their brand equity to kind of like be a stamp of approval and authority and a stamp of like quality. Really great play.
Can I say something on
The
that?
novelty. Yeah.
So I totally see where you're coming from, and I definitely don't want to discredit any, like of the way that Voila operated. I've always felt like that was my least favorite part about, a company like this, or as far as like a model that is built to scale, at least. Because I mean, I think what you're saying is totally valid in the sense that like they can piggyback off of, looking at these, like especially like Onyx or these like really credible names. But from a sense of like, I guess, customer confusion, maybe that's where I would be interested to hear your take on that specifically. Like, I pick up this and I'm like, the only thing I see when I'm looking at the front of this is "Go get 'em," and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, Cometeer. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think like it's all in how that's communicated, and it takes more effort to communicate that in a really like clear and concise way. However, like there are a lot of pros still. I think like coffee culture right now is at a place where people are like, oh, I just want to try a bunch of different stuff. Like it's really cool that I'm drinking something from all across the country. Like that's what drink trade has kind of like been built on. And I mean, you guys used Cat and Cloud as well. Like there's some, you guys probably saw some direct effects of like people coming into Alpharetta, the Milton, pop up when you were still Cat and Cloud and be like, or still using Cat and Cloud. Like you use Cat and Cloud. Like I love Cat and Cloud. That's crazy. They're out here, like I can't get that on the East Coast. Right.
Yeah.
So it muddies the clarity for like new onboarding customers because you're having two competing brands there. Mm-hmm. What I'm sure will happen is like a pivot to Cometeer having their own line. Totally. Voila did that from day one. I didn't want to kind of like switch it up on people like a multi-roaster for 5 years, and then all of a sudden you're like, psych, we roast our own now, margin.
Yeah.
So I guess thank you for clarifying that for me, and that all makes so much sense, and I totally agree. I guess I was just more talking from like I said, just mainly like from a sense of scale, and then like hearing you say like they probably will pivot to that. Like I wouldn't doubt seeing that either. Or if they were just going straight for like we're going to sell this product in Kroger, like the thing that I feel like is the more palatable thing for a random person walking through there is just like, oh, like I don't know how they market it. It's just like Cometeer, the most convenient at-home specialty product you can get.
It just depends on who the customer is, totally. Like in Kroger, you're totally right. The percentage of people walking through Kroger who know what Black and White or even Onyx is so low. But like somebody like my wife who got a targeted Instagram ad for Cometeer, and that was the first time I've heard of this. She knows those roasters, and she's like, "Oh wow, like this is cool," So So we're tasting all these coffees right now. They're still pretty hot.
Yeah.
They're still pretty hot, but just
why'd you make them so hot?
a roundup is a coffee from Uganda, from Black and White. Black and White is a roaster out of North Carolina, right?
Correct.
Onyx coffee. It's a Nariño, Colombia honey process, Caturra. And then we've got Go Get 'em Tiger out of LA, an Ethiopia washed coffee. And then we have something from Equator in San Francisco. And that is from Ecuador. It's washed, Typica. And there's when you go on Cometeer's website, you can get different packs. So I got the like light roast specialty one, but you can get like a dark roast one. You can get a variety pack. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I thought it would be cool to taste, the finished product and then also taste the concentrate. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So yeah, this Uganda from Black and White, I can definitely tell it's a natural. It has a little bit of the like negative acidity that I would associate with an over-extracted coffee, but absolutely impressive for what it is. All right, now I'm going to taste the concentrate. I need a spit cup.
28% TDS.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
You want me to hold the spit cup?
That's love.
I will now be drinking.
The spit. Honestly, the concentrate tastes amazing. You need to try it.
The concentrate was my favorite when like Voila's concentrate, like just drinking at that strength level.
Like almost like an espresso.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah, like because it's non-diluted. You know,
Right.
it's just purest, flavor.
You want to taste it?
Yeah.
Dude, that is good. That concentrate. Like I want to make a cappuccino with that.
Wow, stay
Yeah.
tuned for next week's episode.
But anyways,
It's very salty.
I really wish I could try it because I can only picture what it tastes like. I think I know the method that they use. Thank you.
what do you think? What do you think it is?
I can't say. I'm not gonna say.
Don't tell us. Don't say it.
I'm not gonna say.
Hey, it says
But
recyclable.
I'm sure it tastes great.
Is it the cat poop coffee
My
method? Is that why you're not going to say
yeah.
it?
I'll at least say this. I'll like put some boundaries on it, which like is not going to help at all. But my assumption is that they're doing, a hot water extraction, probably doing a method with no post extraction concentration, which is why it's so good.
Yeah.
So meaning they fully extract it to that strength, and then they flash freeze it with nitrogen.
As opposed to
And that, as opposed to they extract it and then run it through some sort of concentration process, which would be, via there's like membrane concentration, which would be like reverse osmosis concentration. There would be heat concentration, which is, any form of like applying a vacuum and some heat and like evaporating off some water vapor. There's hundreds of different styles of doing like concentrating things, like really common across tons of other industries. Like, actually like wine and beer use a lot of like those methods. Coffee does as well, but they all ruin it. I mean, they really do. Like every way to concentrate post extraction is going to be one of the biggest impacts of flavor loss you could do.
That's an Instagram reel right there. Dude, yeah, all of these are actually tasting pretty yum. I'm going to be honest. I'm really enjoying my Onyx cup over here. You have the Go Get 'em Tiger. Any?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's very, very nuanced. Let's see.
Do you guys have any odd aftertaste to it as well?
I think the one I'm drinking is pretty lactic-y. Like I feel like I pick that out of coffees more often than most people, so maybe I'm not a good let's see.
I'm going to drink this Equator concentrate.
Dude, you got to make your
I don't get it from
Saturnbird.
that, so maybe it's just that coffee.
I did. So I just made my Saturnbird here.
What you got?
I'm super impressed. Like I'm pretty generous as well. But I'm impressed that like these guys are on Amazon at scale. I'm sure they have a lot of scale, and it tastes good. It tastes, I mean, there's like definitely a freeze dried component to it, like a freeze dried impartation. There's a good amount of sweetness. Now, granted, I'm drinking light number one. This is their like lightest. They call it the 30% level.
Yeah.
It's like barely even there, right? And it's not very light, I would say, from like my
Ross
perspective.
stuck his nose in there.
Well, I saw you do it, and I was like, I can do that too.
Oh, we didn't have to make it.
I'm getting a lot of like just simple, sweet chocolate type of notes coming off of it. And it's fine. I feel like I would have no problem drinking this in the morning, like as an everyday type of coffee. I've definitely tasted much better instant than this, like significantly much better. But I would say this is at a level that I would consider specialty. I would consider enjoyable from my own standards, and I would be satisfied with.
Do you see?
I'm not sure the price point on this. What's the price point like per serve? Is it like $1 something?
I was about to ask you if you remembered that or noticed it because I don't remember.
Yeah.
I'll pull up Amazon right now.
Yeah. Please pull it up and do the math.
I'm really interested
Because that's a big factor for me, for sure. Like freeze drying is super expensive. It's like it's got to be one of the most expensive. Definitely is one of the most expensive like drying processes there is because it takes so long and so much energy.
I'm interested to know if that coffee was grown in China as well.
I think this is supposed to be like a Rwanda.
$1.50 a pop.
I hope not.
$1.50 a pop.
Dude, that's
$1.50.
crazy. Because let's do the math. So, Cometeer was $64, and there are 32
So
servings,
2 a pop.
which is impressive.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can't get okay, the first one I made of this was the Onyx Columbia honey process at home. And I was like, this is an incredible cup of coffee. Like one of the better cup of coffees I've had in a while. Mm-hmm. It's $2. Just start if that was all it was. Like that's wild that they're able to execute that at that price point.
Yeah, from there it's just all about your use case.
Right.
And convenience.
Yeah.
Because again,
Convenience is a big factor for me though on it, to be honest. Like overnight ship, dry ice. I don't know. That's hard for me to get over personally. Not that I like want to save the world or anything. It just seems so much. It's just like so much.
Yeah.
It's like that's like what would hold me back from purchasing just in general. Like this is going to come to my door. I got to make sure I'm there. I grab it. I know that it's done all the time, but I wish they didn't have to keep this cold.
yeah.
I wish they could make this shelf stable on its own and just keep it in a nitrogen flushed environment. Or they would just freeze dry it.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very biased.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like, can you pour this into a thermos or like into your own tumbler, seal it up, and then carry it around for the whole day?
Probably.
I mean, I guess you still can't get through security with that, but
Well-
I'm only talking about the airport, but other use cases that might work well, like you have it in your thermos all day. It's pretty cold in there or whatever, and then you can top it off with your hot water at whatever point.
Right. Yeah, I mean this is not frozen anymore. And it says keep frozen. Like this is fully liquid because it came out of my freezer this morning at 7 a.m. And so this probably isn't even at like true peak. I don't know if it really starts to decline in flavor
It's
that
probably
quickly.
fine. I'm sure it's like seen no degradation, honestly.
Gotcha. So Ethan's cooking up this Jot Ultra coffee.
Okay.
They have 2 offerings. I think they have Ultra, and then they have like a darker one as well.
Yeah.
I feel like the last time you came to town, we may have been talking about this. Are you familiar with Jot?
Yes, I've seen Jot. I follow the branding agency that they use to work with like all their branding and logos and stuff, and like they're a cool big agency. So I saw like when they were first teasing it from the agency side, I was like, oh gosh, I gotta pay attention to this. I think it's super cool. This is something that I was interested in pursuing as a Voila Labs project, which would have been our like more experimental line of just like testing with a small group of like beta testers to see, if people like these types of products. We were going to make Voila extraction, voila.ext, in kind of a similar fashion, right? Just dilute and kind of, at it however you want.
Kent, if you were going to start a company today, and I just know you've got some ideas.
Yeah.
I guess if you were going to start, something in this arena again, if you're going to do it all again, I want to know what you would do there. And then part 2 of the question is, what are you going to do? What's in the future for you? And what are you doing now?
Gosh. Okay, if I was going to do something within coffee again, there's so much more I wish I could have done with Voila. Like, we barely did 5% of the things that I wanted to actually accomplish and do. Like, so there's that part of me that's like, we could do X, Y, and Z again, bigger, better, badder. Do I want to do that? No, not really. It was a really hard time. I mean, having that and being like at the height of everything, we were like a 3-person team, really, other than like somebody packaging and like somebody coming in and brewing. Like we did everything mostly as 2 people. And then at the very end, like 3 people on like the core team. And there's just too much to do. Like we just didn't have the resources, for one, for the manufacturing, and 2, like the people resources to manage all of that. So you can imagine it was just a lot of stress and a lot of like difficult stuff that, like, to be honest, like I'm still like getting over kind of like the PTSD of going through all that. Like, it wasn't fun. There were a lot of fun parts, but like I miss my family a lot. I had a lot of conversations that weren't fun on a personal level with just like, other people that we did business with. And like dealing with all the people and all the moving parts and just like trying to sleep at night, it's like, do I want to jump back into that? Even if it was at scale and had the right like support? Not really, even though that idea of like, I haven't seen this through completely, this vision, I haven't like completely completed that yet, still is in my mind. So I don't know the real answer to that. I think there's still a need for a better convenience coffee product on the market. Like, and there's a need for more different ones for different use cases. Like, I think the canned coffee space is still like really early, and there's a lot more development that can be done in that area. That really intrigues me, especially like going in and not just being like pure coffee, but like coffee plus other stuff, like kind of taking a cocktail or an RTD take on that and applying coffee. And I know a lot of people are doing that. I just think there could be so much more at such a higher level without using like retort and all this stuff that like really messes up the flavor. I think that'll be 5 years from now, we'll see a lot of products kind of going down that channel. So that would be an interesting space to work in. On the other side, I think there's still so much that can be done in the cafes themselves. Not that like that's the business model that most intrigues me. Like I'm definitely not a behind the bar type of person, but conceptually, there's a lot to be done in the cafe. I'm sure you guys feel like the exact same way. Like there's so much, like if you could have 20 different locations and each one had a different take, like that's totally possible. I think, is it Go Get 'Em that just came out with their membership for unlimited coffee like yesterday or something like that? Like, I think seeing stuff like that makes me really excited that like people are still thinking of new ways to have great customer experiences and interactions. And so I think the cafe is like a really interesting playground where you get that immediate like feedback from your people without having to build like this giant brand. It's like people just live nearby and they just walk through the door. So I think that would be more fun than anything else. Yeah.
That is wild. Like the amount of time that it took for Cometeer to convert a customer versus the amount of time that like someone that lives down the street from our cafe was like, yeah, I'll just go in. You know, what's the worst that can happen? I waste $2 on a drip. Like, obviously, they're two different products at two different prices, but that is wild. What are our thoughts on the Jot? We never said.
I think it's pretty boring, honestly.
Is it this one?
I don't even know at this point.
Yeah.
Especially, it's it's like when you're on the cupping table and you're tasting a natural that was, or even like a geisha that was $8 a pound next to a Brazil that was $2.90 a pound.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about that coffee next to these Cometeers.
Super solid though. Like it is the most like, this is coffee.
And yeah, it's all convenience factor. I mean, knowing that it says refrigerate after open, I have a little bit
Not
less
that convenient, yeah.
Like this is convenient, but the fact that it was shelf stable before.
It's 30 days here too.
What's cool too is that you can probably do a lot with that as well because it's like
lattes.
It's like a super concentrate. So you could do some really fun.
Yeah, on the
mixing.
bottle it says like add water, milk, or what is it?
What have you?
What have you?
What is the what have you?
Right. What's your what have
Like-
you?
Tonic.
Like Coca-Cola?
Chaga.
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola?
But and then this stuff, the Saturnbird.
I was kind of impressed by the Saturnbird.
Every time.
They need to change their brand name to Saturnbird.
Saturnbird.
Like I was thinking about like putting a few of those in my backpack, just like for when I want it.
Well, those are probably the most convenient, right?
No doubt. Yeah.
It is the most convenient on the table.
Their packaging. Okay. I felt like it said somewhere on here. No, it doesn't. I would hope that because these are like hermetically sealed, meaning like no oxygen goes in or out. I would hope that these are nitrogen flushed because that's going to be a big factor.
Sure.
Like it doesn't even have to be the best coffee. If they can nitro flush those, that's going to retain a lot of that like freshness.
Yeah.
People don't realize that like instant coffee oxidizes as well and it flattens out. And so like maybe that's a big factor why they went with like little plastic cups. I find them funny and kind of cute. My 3-year-old really likes them. Would I want to be sitting next to somebody on a flight and pop out a little mini cup, pop off the lid and peel it back and then pour powder in and then like make my own coffee? I'm not sure.
Depends on
I
how
would like that
secure you are as a
experience.
person.
Are you sitting business class or economy in that scenario?
He's driving.
Yeah,
the
I'm
plane,
definitely
man.
going economy still. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But the form factor, yeah, it's cute. It's a little less. Again, my peak is Voila, and Voila. Honestly, I would take it out of the box and I would throw the packets in a specific spot in my backpack. And so that was just so mega convenient because it didn't take up any room whatsoever.
Yeah.
And this takes up room.
Right.
That's
Definitely.
that's my main
Way too
thing.
much room.
Yeah.
For 24 packets, like I had 24 packets like in my pocket the other day of Voila. I had a bulging pocket, but still.
Do you think that we could get some Voila from you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I have a bunch of stuff that like was non-sellable when we shut down, and so I'm drinking a lot of that. Like it's definitely not at its peak, either due to like mislabel or whatever else. But I'll just send you guys a bunch. I wanted to say I have back here your one of your boxes. Hold on.
No way.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, there it
The
is.
black-
Is that orange
hold on.
washed? I'm trying to remember which one you ordered.
I'm gonna ditch the headphones for a minute now that they've like made a permanent impression on my hair. This is the Guatemala. Yeah.
Yes.
The
Finca
Geisha.
Nueva Granada Geisha.
Love
Okay.
it.
Is that the orange wash?
It was not, but it was also a
Okay.
good coffee. Do you remember your thoughts on it?
Yes, I ruined it. I ruined the whole bag.
What do you mean you ruined it? Like is that a good
dropped it
thing
in
or
the
a bad
toilet?
thing?
No. I couldn't dial it in.
Oh.
I could not dial it
Oh
in.
man.
This was like really early. I just gotten my setup. Like I think I just got the fellow grinder, the Ode. And I may have still been doing a pour over, or I probably had my ratio at that point too. Shout out to Mark for like letting me get that at wholesale. That was really nice of him. And because he listens to the pod. And
Mark.
I don't buy a lot of nice coffee. I'm not that guy that buys a bunch of nice coffee. I just, for one, don't spend my money that way. But I was like, this looks cool. I want to have this new box, like really have this experience and like, contribute to you guys in a way and support you like getting higher end coffee. And I was like, yes, I can't wait. And I just didn't have it dialed. And you know what it's like. You get the smaller bag, or this was a 12-ounce bag, right? Or 10-ounce bag. Okay, yeah, smaller bag. So nervous to brew it right, and I just kept messing it up. And I feel like I eventually got it to a place where I was like, that's good enough.
Yeah. Well, if anything, that just reflects on
Yeah.
us that we're selling a coffee that was hard to dial in.
has such a tight
at
window.
$33 or whatever. But hey, I'll tell you this: we're gonna send you a box of our next black box that's coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks on us. It's gonna have 3
Just pay for
coffees
shipping.
in one box. So
Wow.
3.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Yeah, you just
Maybe
have to
we
pay
can
for shipping and
exchange
handling
our-
of $50.
Okay, no problem. Maybe we can exchange our fellow Ode plus ratio recipes. Honestly, like I'm too embarrassed to post on Instagram that I don't really like know how to dial mine in super well.
Well, I'm gonna be real with you. I was using the things the way they said to brew it on both of the things. Like
What's
I
wrong
looked at
with
the
that?
fellow under the fellow lid and I was like, okay. And then I looked in the ratio manual and it was like whatever line, 45 grams. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And it tasted pretty good.
Yeah.
So I just left it there.
If you watch their YouTube videos, I swear they don't follow that at all. They're like, okay, we're gonna chirp it at a 7, and so then we're gonna unchirp and then dial in to like a 1.24.
Whoa.
And I'm like, what? Like when I had an EK, things were easy. It was just like I knew that thing inside and out, and now I don't. So things are different.
Wait, did you used to have an EK on your counter at home?
No, but just at the shop, at the lab,
That's
you know
only
what I
you,
mean?
bro.
That's goals, bro. Goals.
Yeah.
One day I'll get there.
I've thought about making my way to that. I think I've said it here before. Just like, and we have a commenter on whenever I said this last time that says he does have an EK and an Ode at home, and the Ode is just way more convenient, and he uses it more pretty much. And I totally get that take for the convenience factor.
What's more?
Yeah.
How can you get more convenient than a? Okay.
I mean,
I think just efficiency of space mainly, but I think my end goal would be to record some content at home, either for Valor or for myself, where I can justify having an EK on a counter that's just always in the back shot of a video, and it would probably live there, but we'll see. We'll see where life takes us.
You'll get there, baby.
Life is a
I set up
highway. Sorry.
I had a Fetco, like a single head Fetco drip, commercial brewer, and I set it up like in my little like laundry room nook, and like I turned it on, and I was so excited, and it like the heating element broke the second I set it up, plumbed it in and everything. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna compromise here, and so then I got a ratio. So I was kind of bummed about that, but okay, can I tell you guys what I think the best drink I've ever had from you guys is? You can also try to guess.
Ghost cider.
No.
Lavender vanilla latte.
Nitro Lav.
Yes, that's it. The nitro.
I remember when you came to town, you were like, dude, this is it. And we were like, thanks.
Okay, I've got a bone to pick with you guys a little bit here.
Okay.
Because
Collectively?
Oh yeah, collectively. I feel like I need a little bit of credit for the draft latte. I mean, just a little bit of credit for the draft latte.
Did we talk to you about it? Did you like help us with it? Because
Yeah, you were on the phone with him a good bit. Well, because we were gonna go his direction of hot brew flash chill. Like we bought the setup that he told us to do and everything.
Oh yeah,
and it was good. It was really good.
Yeah.
And then we were just like, we can't do this. We don't have the
Too much.
bandwidth to be able to make it happen yet.
Kent, that is so true. I did call you a lot, and I completely have erased that from my memory. But I feel that love from you still.
It was probably because he said the cafe was small. So you like he did us wrong that one time. So
Absolutely.
you had to do him wrong.
Great point. That's totally how my brain works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember hanging out with you guys and be like, guys, I'm hot on the draft latte thing. You guys got to get this thing going. This is in my warped mind, like how it all worked. Like, you know, I'm like you guys fly me in to consult for a weekend, and you know, it's a win-win. You guys put me up. I see my folks, and I'm like, listen, guys, I'm hot on this draft latte thing here.
We're sipping Naked and Famouses at Lapeer, and we're schmoozing you.
I'm going. It's gonna be a winner for you for sure. Trust me. Oh yeah, and you guys are like, please, Kent, please tell us how to make a draft latte. And I'm like, I'll make this real easy. You get a keg, you get a corny keg, you put some milk in, you put your oat milk, your flavor, you put your coffee in, you hook it up to nitro, shake it up, boom, you're doing draft lattes. You're charging people $12, $18, $47 per cup.
For the geisha draft latte.
Geisha draft latte, dude.
Yeah. No, I saw Cirque Coffee doing that because those guys are just the best. I mean, we don't like really talk, but they had so much fun and did so much fun stuff. I feel like they need way more credit than they have. I haven't kept up with them in years. I don't even know if they're around. But they were doing like really fun lattes, and I was like, oh, this is so simple to do. Like, you guys ought to do something like this. And yeah, in my mind, I was like, I gave you guys that. I was the feather that broke the whichever naysayer is sitting at the table right now is back.
I'm always the naysayer, just in case you're wondering.
Yeah.
No, you definitely did help with that. You said just in passing, like, yeah, you just gotta get a corny keg, and then I think I like didn't stop you to be like, what is a corny keg? And I think afterwards I was like, Riley, what's a corny keg? And then we like Googled it. So yeah, I definitely remember that.
Then you found all these keg jokes.
Yeah. It's so good though. I remember when Zane and I came down for like the second time, and I was like, it's on. The draft latte's on. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to snub you guys twice in the cafe. Right. But that thing is like that. Okay, I'm going to show you guys what that thing is like. It's like,
oh my gosh,
it's like,
wow.
Cross your eyes. For all the pod listeners, it's cross your eyes and your tongue licks your upper lip because it's too yummy.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
It's like, yeah, that's the last time I'll do it, but that's so good. Coffee for me is like not a dessert ever. I usually don't get like any flavored coffees, but I really appreciate, like, I value and appreciate people who get coffee as like a treat. I think, like I'll get coffee as coffee and then like a pastry as like a treat. But that draft latte, oh my god,
we gotta can that shiz.
Yeah, we really want to can it, but mobile canning operations, like, you just don't make any money for us to do mobile. And then if we want to buy her online,
Yeah.
it's going to be like a $70,000 investment. So
Yeah.
Who knows?
And all of our
We've had
investments are tied up.
conversations.
Yeah.
yeah,
our liquids,
we don't have any liquid right now. Yeah, it's just all tied up. So
It's all tied up in hot liquid.
yes,
Yeah. Hot
And
liquid.
coffee.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
I recommend everybody to do that. So that can be the advertisement for the pod. The lavender vanilla draft latte, if you have it.
Oat milk.
we got it, man.
Oat milk.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
and thank
Yeah.
you, Kent, for pushing us along on that.
Yeah.
I don't know where
of
we
course,
would be
man. That's
without you. Honestly.
Yeah.
well, hey, they're playing us off at this point. So you know,
Dun, dun,
I really mean it when I say next time you're in town, we should do this in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely should.
You coming in town for
For
the
sure.
holidays? The holy days? The high holy days?
I'm not. I'm gonna
You can't fly out your family
this
of
year.
four? What's that, probably like $60? 60, $70?
Yeah. Yeah. Not private. It's not that. So
Not private.
no, I'm taking the family. It's my 10-year anniversary in January. So I'm taking the fam plus my mom to Mexico. So I'm super excited about that.
Wow.
We haven't done like a fun trip in like ever, you know? And so there's 4 of us in the family now. And
Hey, what's your little boy's
we,
name?
We invited my mom. Ren.
Ren.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's awesome.
Where in Mexico are you going?
Going to Todos Santos.
Whoa.
It's outside of Cabo.
Dude,
Baja.
jet skis?
How many jet skis are you
100%.
renting?
Yeah. If I don't rent a jet ski, it's all going to be for nothing. then.
We'll be your accountability
So,
partner.
10 years wasted.
Is that a balloon shop reference?
Yes, bro. He rode the jet skis down in Cabo.
So good. I knew that was a big influence.
It shaped my
Yeah,
life.
that's going to be fun. So I hope to see you guys soon. I like to do the unannounced pop in, of course, and surprise you guys. But I should probably not do that as much so we can actually plan.
That would be cool.
Because you guys have a lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah, we're so busy.
Lots of important meetings, lots of important people.
Mostly just with the podcast, We're kind of always like, it's like we do the podcast on Tuesdays and the rest of the week is spent like brainstorming on like
for the next podcast.
For the next
As you can
podcast.
tell by how like structured this
Yeah.
always is.
Well, it's all science at this point.
Guys, seriously, if you liked having Kent on the podcast, smash like. We'd love to have him back on as we taste more stuff together.
We're gonna have to get 100 likes on this video for Kent to come back on. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's not worth his time.
That's right.
Can I request that you guys like delicately press the like button and then
Okay, for this time
roll your
only.
mouse over the subscribe button and then touch the subscribe button?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Hey,
We did not get into any juicy deets on the closing of Voila. And we probably won't, but
just another reason to have you back,
that could,
baby.
that could be a tantalizing hook clickbait for the next one.
That'll be for our Patreon.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
You guys can find me.
Yeah, where can we find you?
We didn't ask, bro. Just
You guys can find me in Bend, Oregon.
His address will be in the
I'm-
show
I'm-
notes.
I'm actually just running a very simple, boring construction company right now that I started on request, and it's actually really fun and simple and straightforward. I get to work with a bunch of cool guys and sew into them in the trades industry in a way that I wish I could have more in Voila, but kind of taking some of that coffee culture and bringing it to the trades, which I think really needs it for, young people who are tradesmen and women. So that's what I'm doing. It's definitely not like sexy in any way, but it's a nice break, change of pace from what I was doing at Voila. And then, yeah, I'm always interested in helping people. So I'm kind of a mentor for a small food and beverage group here in town. And that's still like where my heart is, in food and beverage for sure, and helping people get their concepts off the ground. So I do have a website. It's Kent.FYI.
Yeah.
And same on Instagram.
There you go. Yeah, and
Kent.FYI.
and we mean it when we say Kent has a lot of business experience, a lot of experience working with other businesses and other people in business. So if you need a friend in the coffee business,
Look no further.
look no further.
I actually put Kent.FYI as your business name. Whenever I was sending you Cometeer and Jot, I put like, you can put the business. I was like Kent.FYI. So
That's cool. I appreciate that, Rob.
Shane
That
Co.
really pumps me
Shane
up.
Co. has the friends in the diamond business. Kent's your friend in the coffee business. So,
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah. I'll take that. You guys are awesome. I love what you do. Love the pod. So thank you so much for having me on, honestly. I'm bummed we couldn't all try the same stuff together, but that doesn't even matter. We got to hang out for like 3 hours or something.
Heck yeah.
So two something.
do something.
So I miss you guys. Give you a big virtual kiss.
Oh yeah.
kiss is back, buddy. Kiss is back.
Big smooches.
We love you,
Hey,
dude.
to the fans. Adios.
We love you, listeners. Goodbye.